Hey YouTube family, welcome to another edition of the Kevin Strong Show. And in this video, we're going to talk about pending home sales just fell 20%. Once again, this is death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's happening regardless if you want to embrace it or not. We're going to jump into this article and talk about it a little bit more in detail. Specifically, the article is talking about the South and the West part of the country is starting to experience the most decline in home sales and home price deceleration. So once again, the West includes Seattle. I've been talking about this for a while, not to say that I'm happy, but this was an easy call. I remember being on a real estate group last year, and this guy was considered an expert in the mortgage industry. We'll just leave it at that. And a young man came on and said, hey, I'm really thinking about buying a house. And keep in mind, this is probably around the spring or the summer of 2021. He goes, oh man, now it's the perfect time to jump in. Home prices in the greater Seattle area are just going to keep going up, up, and up. Voila. But I didn't really take issue with it too much because when you're a new guy in the group, you don't want to be that guy that's looked as a troll or anything like that. So without further ado, we're going to jump into this because this is something that's going to repeat itself over and over again in a negative situation, in my humble opinion. Once again, if you're enjoying this type of content, do me the honor of subscribing, commenting, and share because I care. Hope you like this color. You pick which one. But I'm just saying, I think it's a nice color shirt. That's it. I'm just talking about the shirt. But if I made you laugh, I need you to do two things. Pause for the cause, hit that like button, and share this video. Say, hey, this guy's pretty down to earth, and he does make me laugh. But without further ado, let's get into the news. So the title of this article is called Pending Home Sales Fell 20% in June versus a year earlier as mortgage rates soar. So once again, they're going to put this housing arbitrage or this housing burden all on mortgage rates. Yes, that is a big factor, but like I've been saying for years, the affordability crisis and the lack of disposable income and the lack of wages keeping up with inflation has more of a dire outlook on the housing market going forward than just inventory and or mortgage rates. But let's get into this particular article. So here's some key points that they want to extract from this article. Signed contracts to purchase existing homes dropped 20% in June compared with the same month a year ago, according to NAR, the National Association of Realtors. Pending home sales also fell a wider than expected 8.6 in June from May. Okay? The reason why I'm highlighting that, listen to the next part of this point. The Economist poll by Dow Jones had predicted a 1% drop. So this is like 800% higher than what the Economist had predicted. The decline coincided with mortgage rates soaring to over 6% last month. So once again, this is the narrative being shifted, saying that all of this economic negative news as it relates to the housing market is predicated pretty much solely on mortgage rates, as I debunked that earlier, in my humble opinion. The NAR is now forecasting total sales for this year will be down 13%, but that sales should start to rise in the early 2023. Once again, now this keep in mind, this is a jaded article. I'll be the first to admit because it's this information is coming from NAR. But let's analyze this statement for a second. It's going to go down 13%, but it's going to start going back up in 2023. Really? If you guys watched my video just a couple of days ago talking about energy prices, food prices, people can't pay their cell phone bills. Who knows what's going to happen with student loan payment? Wages are not keeping up with inflation. I can go on and on and on. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. We have considerably more consumer debt now than we've ever had in history. But despite all the aforementioned, sales are going to go down this year, but they're going to just magically start to pick back up in 2023. You got to read between the lines, folks. That's why you turn off the left, you turn off the right, and everything will be all right. So let's go ahead and continue to dive into this. Signed contracts to purchase existing homes dropped 20% compared to a year ago. That was the the main point of this article. But more importantly, we're getting very negative housing information in the month of July. This is when people are excited. The weather is nice. People are thinking about either upgrading or downgrading. The activity in the home market is in full swing. Okay. It's not in a quite a lot. And a lot of people haven't come to grips with that. They're just delusional about what's happening in the housing market. I was in the mortgage industry back in like 2004, 2005, and that's when they had like those pay option arms and all those pick a payment funky programs. Back then, Countrywide was one of the leaders on some of those programs. And I remember this rep coming up to me saying, "Hey, Kevin, I don't think these negative amortization loans are good and these pick a payment loans are good. And it's probably going to have a negative effect on the mortgage industry and the housing market at large." I was like, "Ah, you don't know what you're talking about. This is great money." 2 years later, what happened? The mortgage industry collapsed. So if you're in this space, it's very difficult to be objective if your next paycheck is predicated on the housing market or the mortgage industry remaining a vibrant entity. Okay. You're the last person to come to grips with that reality. So, folks, as you do your due diligence and look at various articles, I tell people all the time, the person who's conveying this information, what is their job title and what is the source? And is this information really objective or is it subjective? So obviously NAR, the National Association of Realtors, is going to basically try to paint a rosy picture regardless of what's going on in the housing market. So once again, this part of the article is talking about mortgage rates. The average 30-year fixed loan crossed over 6% in the middle of June, according to Mortgage News Daily. It started the year around 3%. So we all know this. Mortgage rates have doubled. Big payment shock, to include all the stuff I've been mentioning about things that are eating away at our disposable income. And the food prices are a really big issue. And I've talked about this in previous videos. Think about this, guys. If you look at, let's say, putting your rent aside and your car note, your food bill is probably your third or fourth biggest monthly expense. And that's going up, 15, 20% a year? That's a big chunk that's eating away at your disposable income. Contract signings to buy a home will keep tumbling down as long as mortgage rates keep climbing, as has happened this year to date. Once again, this is the chief economist from NAR. Here again, you got to read between the lines. He's basically saying it's the rates, but it's not just the rates. It's all this other stuff that I've been talking about, not only in this video, but in previous videos. People are just squeezed to the point where they don't have an extra drop to give. Their wages just are not keeping up with inflation. This is a much more dynamic, complex issue that's affecting affordability crisis, and it's not solely just interest rates and or inventory. Okay, the drop in sales was widespread, with the South and the West seeing the worst of it. And this is what I was talking about. Okay, over here in the Seattle area where people think they poop ice cream, right? They can do no wrong. It almost takes 18 times the annual salary to afford a house. So our home price to income ratio, it's one of the worst in the country. We possibly could be set up for a big pullback, just like California. So a lot of these markets that's seen just skyrocket appreciation over the last decade, those are some of the markets that are probably going to get hit the hardest, and it's going to spread out through other parts of the country. In the Northeast, pending home sales fell 6.7% compared with May, where they were down 17.6%. So not as bad as the South and the West. Sales were off 3.8% for the month in the Midwest and down 13% annually. So this, like I said, this is happening everywhere. In the South, sales declined 8.9% monthly and 19.2% from the previous year. West, look at this. West Coast, I don't know any gang signs, so I can't do that. West sales tumbled almost 16% monthly and 31% from June 2021. That is a huge, huge number. And as I said, not to sound like a broken record, that affordability crisis is being exacerbated on the West Coast. It's happening everywhere, but specifically in the West Coast. And those markets are poised for a significant pullback in home prices, in my humble opinion. Another report on sales of newly built homes in June, which are also counted by signed contracts, showed a similar drop according to the U.S. Census. Okay, builders are now offering more incentives to offload rising inventory, although prices are still higher than they were a year ago. That's going to change. I guarantee you, you're going to see tracts of homes that were starting to have construction with them. Builders not get completed. These builders are going to be offering all kind of incentives. If you folks can just wait 6 to 12 months, you will see great deals and great incentives and great discounts from new construction homes. I think that's going to happen. So I'm not going to go ahead and keep beating on this article a little bit. I just wanted to jump out in the video and talk about this. Once again, if you're enjoying this type of content, please do me the honor of commenting, like, and share, because you know I care. This was the Kevin Strong Show, and I'll see you guys in the next video.